to take out any bacteria, the exudate formation, and then the healing process. And please don't confuse inflammation with infection, because inflammation is a mechanism that our body uses as a defense mechanism to help us. Infection is what? It's a bacteria type of invasion, an outside invasion. Inflammation is a process or mechanism. So there is the difference. But though you might say, well, they sort of have the same appearance. And that's true sometimes, but I want y'all to be able to differentiate between those two, what the differences are. Because inflammation helps eliminate those invading pathogens. And infection are those pathogens, right? They're trying to take us down. There we go, talking about responses to stress. You guys might be feeling this. This anxiety that's coming ever so closer. 11 o'clock, and here we go. We got 2 hours before that test, right? We have fear. You guys in my clinical group, you had a little bit of fear, anxiety, because you didn't know what to expect. You know, you know now you won't have as much fear. You might sleep a little better next week, won't you? Maybe you won't maybe this time you woke up every hour. Maybe next week, Monday night, you'll wake up every other hour. Then, you know. And then sometimes people have response to stress with anger, going postal, right? There you go. That's how I use some of the words. Anger. They're so angry because of what's happening. And in those cases, don't you forget, you have patients that have such anger. And you must use therapeutic communication, talk them down, right? Some of the defense mechanisms, I just listed a few, but you can look in your book, 85, 86, 585. You guys want to have a good handle on all these defense mechanisms for state boards. Because they'll give you a scenario on state boards and say, now, you would anticipate this to be more like after they told you that whatever the story is, the scenario of the patient, and they'll say, now, based on your understanding of defense mechanisms, which one would you anticipate this would fall under? Which category? That could be how they could write an NCLEX. These are just a few that I identified. The avoidance, the ostrich in the sand. Just stay away, right? You want to avoid it. I don't want to have conflict. What do I need to do to avoid it? Conversion. Is emotional conflict changed into physical symptoms that have no physical basis? You have an emotional situation and it makes you literally become physically ill. Denial. Well, sometimes you have a defense mechanism known as denial because you have a condition that you've just been diagnosed with. You have terminal stage 4 cancer, and your survivability, you have 6 months to live. You want to deny that, don't you? Because you're up walking around, you can't believe it. Mm-hmm. And then we're very familiar with the displacement. We're very familiar with that. The husband loses his job at home. He yells at his wife yells at the kids. The kids jump on the dog, and the dog bites the cat. I don't know, something like that, right? See how that rolls down, you know? That poor cat. You know, displacement. Cat eats the rat. And that's the end of the food chain cycle, isn't it? Stress-induced organic responses. What happens within our bodies when we fail? It's too much stress. We start losing our cardiac output. That's what happened to my mom. She had elevated blood sugar. She was never a diabetic. But the stressors, we have a low immune system. We start developing a low immune system, i.e., so pathogens will start invading us. If we're that sick, we might not be changing our position, and my mom wasn't. I can imagine she already started having tissue breakdown. She was too unstable to turn, see. I know in my mind, I envision it. And you too, as you get experience, yes.
Just taught later, so we have first-hand experience, or is this?
What's that now?
I said, is this chapter taught later, so we have first-hand experience and we relate to it? The test grades go up in this chapter, on this test?
Oh, you think that might happen with? You think that's a hypothesis?
I'm just saying we can relate to this. Yeah.
Yes, we must do a research study. I don't know. I've never taught the fundamentals here.
Oh, yeah, you should teach it first, you know, so the next class.
I think you're in denial.
The research, how that we should, research might tell us that we might, but see what I'm thinking is, you guys are so stressed, you wouldn't even, this would be over the top. Now you're in the throes of it, see. You don't know what's happening to you those first 2 weeks, because remember that first week, what happened? That second day, what did you have? You had a test.
Oh.
So, day 2, you had a test. I think this is probably at a good section, because y'all are all feeling these things. Some of you guys are having that irritable bowel syndrome right now.
Maybe 5 minutes before the exam.
Right? See what I gotta go use the restroom, right? I mean, y'all, right?
Yeah,
y'all
that's
aren't
how
y'all
I was
telling me? I said, go on and go, because I know it's, you know what stress does to a body, right? So manization, that's an anxiety, emotional turmoil, and what you'll find is in mental health, you might learn more of these disorders where these conditions get so serious. You can have a situation, they're stressed, they're so stressed, and their ability to adapt fails, that they might become literally blind. But there's no reason, there's no physiological reason for that. Pain, now let's talk about pain. You know, pain is such a, and we have that as the 5th vital sign, right? And we acknowledge that sometimes pain can become a patient's whole existence, trying to deal with the pain, the stress of knowing pain. You know, they say that that's next to dying for cancer, terminally ill cancer patients. That's next to dying, that pain, the fear of pain. That's pretty serious, right? Then we have this thing called malingering. Malingerance. Now, how many of us have malingered? Oh man, I don't feel like going to work today. I've worked 5 12-hour shifts, and this was really my day off, and I am forced to take calls. See, at the hospital, right? Forced to take call, and they call me, and I said, man, I've got this terrible cold, and I just can't do it. I've been having that, or I up front, I call 3 or 4 hours ahead. So they won't call me in, right? I've been having this GI thing. Right? Now, how many of you have done that? We're all guilty. We're all guilty. Don't want to go to work. I think I'll call, but see, that's why I take care of it early on. I don't want any of my students to be afraid of me, right? Didn't I say, I asked each and every one of you yesterday as you were giving me your passports, I said, now you're not afraid of me, are you? Right? Because I think sometimes instructors can cause a fear, an intimidation. And I am not that way. I don't want you to feel that way, because you'll have this anxiety of not wanting to come to clinical. And I want all my students to come to clinical, because all those residents need our help. See? And y'all need to come to clinical, because if you don't come to clinical, that can negatively affect your grade and could possibly fail you for the course. See? So y'all just, no matter what, you go to clinical. Because you really do feel bad after you've called and tried to tell the instructor, I can't come because I had this GI thing that I had all night. You know. You really don't make yourself feel any better. I'll just be honest. I know, you know, just trying to help you out here, guys. The responses to crisis, you have what they know, and notice I put the stockbroker that has just lost him, you know, multi-millionaire and on the poverty the next day, right? That happened in like 2009, I think that was, when everybody was, they just suddenly went bankrupt overnight, right? But you have these stages of crisis, pre-crisis, the impact, the crisis itself, how does the patient or person adapt, and then the aftermath. I could have used the other concept. Hurricane Katrina would have been a good one, right? The pre-crisis, they knew that hurricane was coming. New Orleans knew. They knew way ahead of time it was coming. But can you imagine, there was no realistic plan to evacuate an entire city. They didn't have that really in place. They were gambling, right? They were hoping that this never happened. But we now know for a fact it happens, and it can happen, and it keeps happening. Right? They still had problems with those levees. Not the Army built one, but they had some in those other parishes that had problems. That'd be a perfect one to, you know, to abstractly think through these stages of crisis. Burnout. I think some of y'all probably are already in burnout. Y'all just started. Y'all just started. I mean, y'all just started your nursing school. You haven't even had the career, right?
Y'all hit us hard.
Y'all working 12-hour shifts, studying, right? Maybe more. I'd say more.
Yeah.
You know. 12-hour shifts, that's an intense shift. That was that's the routine shift. 7A, 7P, 7P, 7A. I've worked both. I've worked 7A to 3P, and then I've worked 3P to 7A. 16-hour shifts. Mandatory overtime. I think one that's very disconcerting is when a system uses rotating shifts, frequent rotating shifts, because it messes up a body's circadian rhythm. Being floated is highly stressful, let me tell you. I'm used to working MICU, and they tell me they're going to send me to the cardiac thoracic ICU. I know nothing about taking care of balloon pumps, believe me, and I won't do that. But these are different animal kind of patients. They're not like the medical intensive care patients necessarily. Dealing with death and dying over and over and over can cause burnout. It can, because you work so hard at trying to save patients, and then they still succumb. And a lot of nurses, they will actually switch, and that's the beauty of nursing, how you can switch into different disciplines just to try to counteract the burnout. When you are assessing stress, it's just like any kinds of assessments that you do on your patient or your individual that you're working with. You have to look at the subjective and objective, identify their risk factors, what kind of coping mechanisms do they have in place? Maybe they don't have any. And how can they adapt? Oh, go ahead. I'm just a patient. You want to, and that's the therapeutic communication response, right? You want to encourage the patient to verbalize about their stressors and anxiety. Some of you will come to my office and talk to me, and I'm sort of, you know, I'm sitting back and I'm listening because I know something's going to come out. I don't know what. I've had students that I haven't even taught here walk by my office door, and all they come in and they ask me for a paper clip. But they don't know me, I don't know them, I've never taught them. And first thing you know, they've sat down and they start to tell me about situations going on with them. But see, I could tell, you know, one just doesn't walk by an instructor's office that they've never had to ask for a paper clip. And then sit down, and you can tell there is an expression. There is an expression of need. And I say this to you because I say you look to your neighbor to your left and your right, and if there is a need, a stress, please help one another. We're all in this together. You guys want to all graduate. You guys all have gone forth, put in a sacrifice to be here. You are selected. Don't let one of your fellow students falter. If I can make it, you guys can make it. Believe me. I'm just an average bear. But you've got to help one another. You've got to be in tune with each other's situations. Managing anger. Don't y'all have y'all watched that movie, Anger Management? Yeah. Yeah, it's very interesting. But very good illustration talking about anger management. You guys be careful, especially with the mental health rotations. You don't know really, don't get yourself in a situation in a patient's room where you don't have an exit. In other words, they're blocking the door. Y'all think safety. Safety for you, safety for patients, safety for other patients. Be careful with those angry patients. You never know.
This was on the test.
Huh?
So what would you do in that situation when somebody's
Standing between the door and the...
We picked, I picked stand between the door and the open door.
Never let that patient stand at the door.
We said we. We
must
stand at the door between the patient and the open door.
Oh yes, you must be have the exit. You must always have the exit.
Always the door open.
Yes, you must always have the exit.
They said that they weren't in, they walked up to the nurses.
Oh, I don't know. But I'm telling you from a safety standpoint,
That was today.
I'm telling you from a safety standpoint, do not let that patient block your only exit. I saw that once. I don't know if I told y'all this war story. I may tell it again too. The patient that was in the MICU, I was the charge nurse, and we had patient, the unit was full. This patient was a psych patient, and he had had a surgery. And he had recovered pretty much from his surgery, just was healing. In the healing process, still had his sutures in. It was a simple procedure. And he was in the healing process, and they had, of course, had follow-up with med-surg nurses, but they went ahead and put him in the 5A lockup, right? So what this guy gets his hands on is he gets his hands on a coat hanger, a metal coat hanger. And he takes that coat hanger and he just rips his sutures wide open.
Ooh.
It's just a mess on the psych ward lockup. You know, they don't handle IVs. They don't take IVs. You got to understand that. And so you can imagine that just probably freaked that psych nurse out. Well, so we got that patient lickety-split. They got transferred to the medical intensive care unit. And the way the diagram, I'm just going to show you here. This depicts the med room. We had no doors on our med room. It was an open column where you could walk in, and an open column over here. Our unit went around like that, like a rectangle. He was in 710. He was in 710, psych patient. He wasn't really my patient. He was this other RN. I was being charged over 3 LVNs, so I had 6 patients that I had to assess, and out of those 6, 3 of them were on ventilators, and a couple of them had drips and dopamine drips to maintain blood pressure. Y'all haven't learned that yet, maybe. But I was mixing my medicine. I needed to change out one of my patients' dopamine. This guy, sick mentally. He just, at intervals, he would do this. He would just rip off his EKG leads, rip out his IV, and he would just walk out of his room and into our medication room. And I'm there trying to mix my meds, because my patient, that dopamine, I've got to get that hung because his blood pressure's plummeting. Now, I will say I wasn't the best therapeutic nurse that day. I told him, get out of my med room and get back in your room right now. I don't have time to deal with it because I have a life-death situation going on. But he was angry. This guy was angry. He did go back in his room. That RN came to him, and lo and behold, what she did, and I couldn't believe it. That's why I got on the phone. I called security, get up here right now. She went into that room, and she shut the door. And the door shuts like this. And he had her, there was no personal space. You know, y'all learn about personal space, right? No personal space. And I'm watching this, you know, and even though I'm thinking, I gotta get this dopamine on. So at the same time, I'm mixing my dopamine because I gotta do a double mix on the bag, and I'm pushing they have a phone in there, pushing operator, hospital operator. I said, get security up here right quick at MICU, and we're getting ready to have a bad situation. So what we ended up having to do with this individual, because we really didn't have an understanding of how sick some mentally ill people can get, even though they should be sort of cooperative while we're trying to take care of them. So we ended up keeping around the clock 2 security guards at that room, just so we could take care of our other patients. But she did a dangerous thing. She went in that room. She thought she'd use therapy. She was an LVN going for her BSN. See, that's what she was doing. And guess what? She was in that mental health rotation. And she was trying to use therapeutic communication. Sometimes it just don't work, guys. It just don't work. But she did something wrong. It's by shutting that door. And I said, oh my gosh, something big's getting ready to happen. You know, quick, get up here, which they did. She didn't get hurt, but it was like, you know, you had some real fear. So be very careful when you're dealing with patients that have anger. Be safe. Be safe. Now here's just a few stress management techniques. You guys, relaxation. My husband wants to take me to the beach tomorrow. No, I take that back. Not tomorrow, but Saturday. The Corpus. Maybe, because I want to work on more PowerPoints. See, I want to do more of my PowerPoints for you guys, so I don't know.
You already post them. Don't change it.
No, I'm talking about for the next upcoming units.
I already printed them out.
I wish to work very hard in preparation for exam 8. I'm working ahead.
Your husband's gonna get excited if you start working at the beach.
Yes. No, he's used to me. He's used to me. He's used to it. Relaxation is very important for all of us. And I want y'all to remember you do got to take time out for yourself. because I don't want anyone, my students stroking out on me. Right? Things can happen too. And you know, we had a patient, not a patient, we had a, at a school that I taught at, it wasn't in the nursing, but he was in another department. And he cardiac arrested in class and was pronounced dead there. They couldn't revive him. But, you know, nothing's worth all that. Take care of your bodies. Exercise, meditate if that's what makes it work for you. Guided imagery. These pictures are so pleasant when you can see the sunset. I love the sunset pictures, right? I should have put some out there for you. Biofeedback. Acupuncture. Chiropractic adjustments. Massage. Did anybody do a back rub? I need to add number 9. Did you do? Oh, did you do it?
Yeah.
Did they enjoy?
I don't know. He didn't really talk to me, but I was one of the patients that I had brushed his hair and stuff like that.
Oh, that's very relaxing. I love when my hair's brushed. Yes, he did. He definitely. Ryan's saying that.
His hair was like sticking up, and I was like, this poor man. So I went to his room, I got his brush.
And that doesn't make you feel good.
Yeah, I told him, I was like, you look so handsome now. And I was explaining that I do this to my son, and this is how I brush his hair
Yes.
and all that
Oh,
stuff.
I love it.
So he was smiling. He couldn't really talk to me, but he was
See
smiling.
how exciting clinical is, guys? Y'all see that? Do you feel it? Yes. Yes. Therapeutic touch and humor. We got to have a little humor in our lives, right? Now, I'm stopping here. I'm not going to make y'all do your think tank groups unless you want today, because I think I want y'all to do think tank groups on your pharmacology. So for this last bit of time, y'all do your think tank groups. Y'all may study in here and help each other ace the pharmacology exam. Does that sound good?
Sounds good.
We'll cover this on Monday. All right.